century. It's science.
It's a great day for being sad.
What'd you drum up?
Thanks, Jeff, for the question.
In the Ice Age, how much taxes did people pay?
That's hot.
Oh, never occurred to me.
Interesting.
Just crazy enough to work.
Yeah.
Jesus, I say that.
China.
In the Ice Age, how much taxes did people pay?
He looks good, and he looks hard.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
Well, here we are again. All of us together, floating through the unknown. Got a whole lot for us to look at here today, so we're gonna get right to it. Don't forget to buckle those seatbelts. We might experience some turbulence while traveling through the void. A lot of people already coming through. I think I even see some people I've never seen before. But, always say a quick what's up to all of you. Mrs. Jen, Moanoa, Robot Cat, Jules, Winfield, Selena Marie, Bad Lefty, Shakespeare, who was apparently doing a community night that I completely missed, and I'm sorry for that. So Life, Schmegley, Jules T. I think I might have missed someone. PB. If I missed you, I'm sorry. So many of you to keep track of. Well, yesterday was Freedom Day, aka July the 4th. We very sort of quickly discussed that and figured that today we would look at a couple things involving what happened yesterday here in the United States while we all attempted to celebrate our supposed freedom. To start it off, I figured we'd watch this. This is a story from Democracy Now!, where they discussed the book. Shit, what's it called? It's not actually History of America by Howard Zinn. It's the second one, and you'll see. If you haven't already seen any of this footage, you're gonna check out a good portion of this.
Today in this special broadcast, we look at voices of a people's
We have two
history
support characters
inspired by the late great historian Howard Zinn's groundbreaking book.
Hold on. Oh God, what is happening? How do we have 4 support characters? I did not take them down before the stream. This is crazy. This is anarchy. Okay. Wait, do we have 20 likes? Or are we there yet? What's happening with that? We have 22 likes. So yeah. Okay, that first one's a 7. Who's 7? Oh my god. These dice are rigged, I swear. Pink Panther, 15. And 7 is Archer. I swear, we've gotten Archer like 4 times since we did the emotional support character vote. Wait, gotta fix this one too. No Astrid. No Ripley. Oops. Should have done this before. So I didn't have to take everybody down. It makes me sad to take emotional support characters down.
A People's History of the United States, which helped reshape how history is taught in classrooms. 20 years ago, Howard Zinn and Anthony Arnov began organizing public readings of historical texts referenced in A People's History of the United States. The two would go on to publish a book collecting these texts under the title Voices of a People's History of the United States. While Howard Zinn died in 2010, his work continues to inspire millions across the country and the globe. Anthony Arnov and Haley Pessin have just published a new book titled Voices of a People's History of the United States in the 21st Century, Documents of Hope and Resistance. It gathers more than 100 speeches, essays, and other documents of activism, protest, and social change. I recently spoke with Anthony and Haley to talk about the book and about recent live readings from the text. I began by asking Anthony Arnov to talk about Howard Zinn.
Howard was born 101 years ago in Brooklyn to working-class immigrant parents. He, from a very young age, was actually involved in political organizing, worked in the Brooklyn Navy Yard, had a number of working-class jobs around New York City, and was around people who were talking about the need to fight for better working conditions, opposing racism. And then Howard entered World War II, where he was a bombardier. And that was an experience that profoundly transformed him. He came home a determined anti-war activist and someone who dedicated his life to opposing U.S. empire. He then went from that experience to studying on the GI Bill and becoming a historian, where his first assignment as a teacher was at Spelman College, right at the very beginning of the civil rights movement. And he threw himself completely into that movement.
You hope to one day make a contribution as important as Howard. Yes, I think all of us would love to be even fractionally as consequential, I guess would be the word.
He said that he learned more from his students than his students learned from him as a teacher. He had students like Bernice Johnson Reagan, students like Alice Walker, and others who were some of the earliest participants in the civil rights movement in the South. He threw himself into those struggles very actively, and in fact, as a result of that, he was pushed out of Spelman College by the administration and then migrated north to Boston, where he actually taught in the political science department because he was kind of pushed to the margins of the historian's profession because of his involvement in civil rights.
Sounds very similar to some stuff that's been happening lately, doesn't it? It's got real 2024 vibes written all over it. At least his life story, if you will. Okay, now we cannot watch all 50 minutes of this Democracy Now! Thing. I really wish we could. It's quite fascinating. I figured we would at least catch a few of the speeches. If you didn't quite hear what Amy Goodman was saying at the beginning of this. The book is a compilation of people's experiences, like speeches essentially and things like that, written down. And recently, a group of people came together to read from this book certain excerpts. I'm trying to think, was there something else I wanted to look at before we get to that? No, I think we go straight to this.
Talk about the place where Angela gave this. It fits right in to what you're talking about right now.
Yes. So the speech that Kerry Washington read was given by Angela Davis, the great civil rights activist and feminist, at the Women's March on Washington, the largest protest, a single-day protest in U.S. history, on January 21st, 2017.
And this, of course, was the day after President Trump was inaugurated.
At a challenging moment in our history, let us remind ourselves that we, the hundreds of thousands, the millions of women, trans people, men, and youth who are here at the Women's March, we represent the powerful forces of change that are determined to prevent the dying cultures of racism and heteropatriarchy from rising again. We recognize that we are collective agents of history, and that history cannot be deleted like web pages. We know that we gather this afternoon on Indigenous land, and we follow the lead of the First Peoples who, despite massive genocidal violence, have never relinquished the struggle for land, water, culture, their people. No, we salute especially today the Standing Rock Sioux. The freedom struggles of Black people that have shaped the very nature of this country's history cannot be deleted with the sweep of a hand. We cannot.
You know what that makes me think of? Makes me think of what has been happening with the internet campaign, right? We recently talked about how there's an entire team of essentially Israeli propagandists who have been solely dedicated to changing things like Wikipedia pages to favor and or mimic IDF talking points and all this other shit. That's what I mean. It immediately just came to mind when she started talking about deleting history. Hold on. I actually want to listen to more of this, but cannot. I wish we could listen to the whole thing. We just don't have time. We have so much shit to talk about today. So much stuff.
Hollywood actors against sexual assault at the height of Me Too in November of 2017.
Dear sisters, we write on behalf of the approximately 700,000 women who work in the agricultural fields and packing sheds across the United States. For the past several weeks, we have watched and listened with sadness as we have learned of the actors, models, and other individuals who have come forward to speak out about the gender-based violence they've experienced at the hands of bosses. Problem in your farm worker women across because of the widespread lights. We work in the shadows. out of mind for
You love Rosario Dawson? I too love Rosario Dawson.
most people in this country. Your job feeds souls, fills hearts, and spreads joy. Our job nourishes the nation with the fruits, vegetables, and other crops that we plant, pick, and pack. Even though we work in very different environments, we share a common experience of being preyed upon.
God damn it.
By individuals who have the power to hire.
Is the stream lagging again? It is buffering, isn't it? I just noticed it. I just noticed that. That is annoying. Gotta happen. It's gotta happen every stream, doesn't it? Once per stream. Totally normal. What's weird is the lava lamp seems to be running perfectly fine. Look, lava lamp health is at 100%. At least it looks like it to me. That's basically the buffering bar for the stream. What the fuck is going on? YouTube is shadow banning Rosario Dawson.
Fire, blacklist, and otherwise threaten our economic, physical, and emotional security. Like you, there are few positions available to us, and reporting any kind of harm or injustice committed against us doesn't seem like a viable option. Complaining about anything, even sexual harassment, seems unthinkable, because too much is at risk, including the ability to feed our families and preserve our reputations. We understand the hurt, confusion, isolation, and betrayal that you might feel. We also carry shame and fear resulting from this violence. It sits on our backs like oppressive weights. But deep in our hearts, we know that it is not our fault.
Yeah, hopefully everybody who has experienced any sort of sexual trauma knows that it's not their fault. That is definitely, I think, a good message to end on with her part of the speech. Now, is there anything else? God damn, there's so many different people that came and talked to this. Let's listen to Marissa Tomei real quick.
Ran into a crowd of people, and this was read by Susan Bro at Heather's funeral, which she'd opened up to a larger group of people to collectively mourn the loss and to encourage them to fight against these far-right.
So this is Marissa Tomei, the great actor, reading the words of Susan Bro, who had just lost her daughter.
My child's favorite Facebook post was, "If you're not outraged, you're not paying attention." She paid attention. She made a lot of us pay attention. Oh my gosh. Dinner with her, we knew it was going to be an ordeal of listening and conversation. And perhaps disagreement. But it was going to happen. And we would talk about all the stuff. We talked about politics. We talked about anything that caught her eye, that she felt was fair, unfair. She'd talk about her feelings about the police and how things were going. I mean, she just talked. Girl loved to talk. And she was single, so there was nobody listening at home, so Mama got a lot of it, and that was wonderful. You never think you're going to bury your child. You never think to take those pictures. They asked me for pictures for this, and I struggled. I had pictures from her childhood, but I had to go to Facebook to find pictures of my child because we were always together. So you take pictures of the ones you love because you don't know when they're not going to be here. But here's what I want to say to you today. This could all be for nothing. I could have said, let's not do this publicly. Let's have a small private funeral. But, you know, that's not who Heather was. And anybody who knew Heather said, this is the way she had to go. Big and large. Had to have the world involved. Because that's my child. She's that way. Always has been, and she will continue to be. Because although Heather was a caring and she was a compassionate person, so are a lot of you. A lot of you. You go that extra mile. And I think that's the reason that what happened to Heather has really struck a chord. Because we know what she wanted to do. It's achievable. But we don't all have to die. We don't have to sacrifice our lives. They tried to kill my child to shut her up. Well, guess what? You just magnified her. So here's what I want to happen. You ask me, what can I do? So many caring people, so many pages and pages and pages of stuff I'm going through. So I'm reading pages and pages of how she's touching the world. I want this to spread. This is just the beginning of Heather's legacy. This is not the end of Heather's legacy. You need to find in your heart that small spark of accountability. What is there that I can do to make the world a better place? What injustice do I see? And you might want to turn away. I don't really want to get involved with that, and I don't want to speak up. They'll be annoyed with me. My boss might think less of me. I don't care. You poke that finger at yourself, like Heather would have done, and you make it happen. You take that extra step. You find a way to make a difference in the world.
Okay. That was very emotional speech there. Woof. We're all old now? Yeah, I suppose we're all getting older. That's how time works. I just thought this was a good way to reflect on America by talking about some of our very real problems by way of this well put together. I mean, it is shocking how well put together it was. I wish we had 50 minutes to just go through the whole thing, but we don't. Now, we got a few more videos here to look at regarding America, if you will, and Freedom Day. And yeah, let's do it by talking about how we can't even manage to keep ourselves from hurting each other with fireworks. We talk about problems with guns in this country and gun culture. Well, fireworks have caused multiple problems on the 4th of July. This one happened at a Utah, I think it was a baseball stadium, where multiple injuries were reported after a malfunction with the July 4th fireworks.
At least 6 people were hurt when a July 4th event in Utah turned dangerous.
Fireworks misfired and went right into the crowd, and all of this was caught on camera. That was so scary. The accident happened during the Stadium of Fire event at the Brigham Young University in Provo. Cell phone video shows the fireworks start veering off and then just slamming right into a section of the crowd. Start veering off and then just
Blam! Oh my god. Wow. That that just looked like, I mean, it's literally a rocket. That sucks. That sucks. All right. This was from sometime yesterday. This is coming out of Detroit, I think. Yeah. Where a firework nearly destroyed a Macomb County home.
And our other top story tonight, fireworks are to blame for a fire in Chesterfield Township, and now the family living there is trying to figure out what's next.
Yeah, that chaos happened last night around 11. No one was seriously hurt, but as Nick Monticelli shows us, this is a strong reminder of what fireworks can do.
Right after we got done lighting our fireworks off, they said there was a fire across the street, so me and my buddy, we ran across the street, and as we approached,
This, can anybody guess what how this guy votes right here? He has too many flags on. If you, like, even one flag gives me suspicions, but if you got two flags, oh boy, oh boy.
The dogs are at the front door. Opened the door, grabbed the dogs, brought them back across the street.
That is Norm Rowley, who lives across the street from this home on Fairwood in Chesterfield Township.
Damn.
A firework is to blame for this fire that neighbors say started as they were about to go to bed.
We were sitting on the front porch and we saw it, and literally my husband just ran across screaming, "You got a fire, you got a fire." They didn't notice at first.
James owns this home. He didn't want to go on camera, but as he was grabbing things he wanted to save, told me he just moved in 2 months ago and just finished buying all the furniture. The damage is extensive. The garage, roof, second floor, most of it destroyed. The public safety director says it is a harsh reality check.
Yeah, and the fact is, we're not done talking about fireworks today. We're going to come back to it. I wonder if anybody here can guess at what point during the show we're going to be talking about fireworks again. But just to wrap up the the after party, if you will, here, let's look at this. I don't know if you know this, but bald eagles, which happen to be our what do you call it? Our nation's most touted, most loved bird, right? Put it on everything. Well, you might not know this, but when they fight each other, they actually lock talons and tumble towards the ground while attempting to fight over territory during mating season. And this is a little fun video.
Hey man, you're in my airspace.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is this your air?
Yes, it is actually.
Oh, you mean the air that I'm breathing right now?
You stop that.
Stop what?
That's it.
Had enough? You thirsty for more?
Oh, I could hold on to you all day, pal.
Yeah, I bet you couldn't hold me all night.
What?
What?
Well, look who's finally awake. You and your partner over there are incredibly lucky to have survived. My... what?
I didn't let you go.
And I didn't want you to.
Jesus.
Oh, beautiful
They just start...
for spacious sky.
Oh my goodness. Just ridiculous. I do love those natural habitat shorts though. They're just so good. And also educational. Funny and educational at the same time. Can't beat that. We're learning things. I'm not sure I'll ever be able to look at a bald eagle the same way ever again. If I'm being real. Alright, now let's talk about the presidential election just a little bit here. First, I guess we'll just open it up with this.
now my great honor to introduce the President, the First Lady, the Vice President, and the Second Gentleman.
Second Gentleman.
Happy Independence Day! And today, as we celebrate freedom, as we celebrate the promise of America, we also celebrate and express our gratitude to our service members, to our veterans, to our military families. And we give thanks to our Commander-in-Chief, the President of...
Oh my god, how many references to the military do you have to make in, in one sentence, Kamala? Good god.
United States, the extraordinary President of the United States,
Extraordinary?
Joe Biden.
We gotta
That's
do what our
bold.
founders did. Show the world we're a nation of dignity, honor,
Oh god.
and just devotion to one another. This is, no, I really mean it. Folks, it's all
Oh god. He has not been doing better with the speeches. Not gonna lie. Not gonna lie. I've seen some stuff recently, and it's not getting better. She is a former cop. I mean, she was what? Was she actually a police officer? I don't think she was, right? Wasn't she just a prosecutor or something like that? Which is, I mean, effectively a cop. I mean, maybe splitting hairs here. Okay. Now, let's look at this one here. Because we recently heard two different explanations for why Joe Biden, at least there are two prevalent explanations. We've actually heard multiple, more than two, but the two prevalent ones were either his travel schedule was too tough or he had a cold. Corinne Jean-Pierre said that he had a cold, and then someone else, a different spokesperson from the administration, said it was his travel schedule. However, this is from CNN from 11 hours ago, and according to them, Biden's campaign is saying that he will be leading an aggressive travel schedule in July.
Today is a pivotal day for Joe Biden, the candidate. Next hour, the president will leave the White House for an afternoon campaign event in Wisconsin, and it is there where he will sit down with ABC's George Stephanopoulos for an interview that could decide whether his reelection can survive. This will be his first television interview since the CNN debate, when his many stumbles and stammers raised serious questions inside his own party about his ability to lead for 4 more years. Wary Americans will be closely scrutinizing everything he says and does, and how he does it, with one lost thought potentially ending his campaign. But Biden is digging in, insisting he is not dropping out.
This could not be done without the family support. So thank you, thank you, thank you. We love you, and I really mean it from the bottom of my heart. Thank you.
He keeps saying that he really means stuff, and it sounds weird. I really mean it. See what I mean?
Priscilla, this morning, Biden's campaign announced what they described as an aggressive travel schedule. That said, CNN's reporting the president intends to stop scheduling events after 8 p.m. so he could get more rest. This apparently part of his message to Democratic governors when he met with them at the White House. Tell us what the actual strategy is in your reporting.
Well, in some ways, Jim, this is the campaign telling allies, we hear you. Of course, we have heard over the last several days that they want to see the president have more unscripted moments. They want to see him on the campaign trail, engaging with voters often to, again, demonstrate that the president is up to the job. And so this is a campaign memo that tries to outline how they're going to do that with, quote, an aggressive travel schedule. That includes the president, the vice president, the first lady, the second gentleman collectively going to every battleground state. The president also going to Nevada to talk at 2 conferences targeting Black and Latino voters, and the conventional methods of a $50 million paid media blitz. So certainly taken together.
So yeah, having him out there more and traveling more seems counterintuitive to what they've been saying about his ability to be traveling this much, right? Unless it was like, honestly, what is the actual explanation though, right? For the debate. That's part of the problem, because we've heard too many explanations now. The fact is if it is his travel schedule, why are they putting him out there in this way? I don't have a good answer for that. Aside from that, they need to get their numbers up. Oh my god, what happened? Did this video get taken down? Oh my god, I had another video of Biden doing exactly what they were just talking about, being in public, talking to people in a more candid, open setting. And it was not good. But it looks like it got taken down, because it's not on my list anymore. Okay, then I guess I'll go to this one. This was from 5 hours ago. And slightly before this story came out, Biden canceled a Philadelphia speech at the Teachers Union Convention after the staff went on strike. Omega Star says hydrate. I will do that.
I'm with the NESO bargaining team. NESO stands for the NEA Staff Organization, which is the bargaining unit, the largest bargaining unit for the staff that works for the NEA, the National Education Association. We are the ones who train our teachers and our education support professionals on what is best practice and how to do their jobs. They need us to do this work. We're the ones who support their members, and we're glad for it. We respect the work that we do. We expect NEA to respect us and the work that we do as well.
So this is kind of, just kind of flying in the face of what we were just hearing from the administration, saying that they want to get him out there more, talking to people in sort of closer settings and stuff. He had the chance to talk to these people as he was going to the convention. Instead, they just completely skipped it. And instead went on ABC to talk to, what's his name? Greg? Is it Greg Stephanopoulos? I always forget his first name. Steve Stephanopoulos. I'm just making things up now. Anyway, I'm just going to watch the only clip that I found of this before I started the stream, which is like 2 minutes long.
Let's start with the debate. You and your team have said you had a bad night. But your friend Nancy Pelosi actually framed the question that I think is on the minds of millions of Americans. Was this a bad episode or the sign of a more serious condition?
It was a bad episode. No indication of any serious condition. I was exhausted. I didn't listen to my instincts in terms of preparing, and I had a bad night.
You say you were exhausted, and I know you've said that before as well, but you came, and you did have a tough month, but you came home from Europe about 11 or 12 days before the debate, spent 6 days in Camp David. Why wasn't that enough rest time, enough recovery time?
Because I was sick. I was feeling terrible. Matter of fact, the docs with me, I asked them if they did a COVID test because they were trying to figure out what was wrong. They did a test to see whether or not I had some infection, a virus. I didn't. They just had a really bad cold.
And did you ever...
So it was a cold now. It wasn't the schedule. We're going back to the cold. It's very confusing.
Watch the debate afterwards?
I don't think I did, no.
Well, what I want to get at is, what were you experiencing as you were going through the debate? Did you know how badly it was going?
Yeah, look. the whole way I prepared, nobody's fault, mine. Nobody's fault but mine. I prepared what I usually would do, sitting down, as I did come back with foreign leaders or the National Security Council, for explicit detail. And I realized about partway through that, you know, I get quoted, the New York Times had me down at 10 points before the debate, 9 now, or whatever the hell it is. The fact of the matter is that what I looked at is that he also lied 28 times. I couldn't.
Woof. It is so hard to stay along with his train of thought right now. He's just kind of going back and forth between different, completely different, seemingly unrelated things. Ooh, Jules just got second. I thought somebody already got second. Oh, no, wait, Moa Noab took third instead of second. Okay. What's up with the spray tan? I don't know. Maybe he's trying to get some votes from the orange base. That would be my guess. Anyways, not a great interview at all. Although I've only seen 2 minutes of it. Maybe we'll see more of it later this week, probably this weekend. You would think they're gonna release more of it. Where am I? Alright, let's finish talking about... Oh, actually, one thing I wanted to talk about... Maybe we'll do it after this. Let's do it after this. This is from NBC LA from an hour ago, where we get to take a look at what Donald Trump said about Biden when he was questioned on the golf course.
President Biden faced 2 high-stakes events today. First, a rally in the important swing state of Wisconsin, where he said he's not going anywhere. And then a sit-down interview, his first since his poor debate performance.
Wait, hold on. I forgot that they have all this stuff. I just want to go to this. Wait, where is it? Is it not on this video? Wait, hold the fucking phone. This is bullshit. I gotta get this. Like... What the fuck? Oh, there it is. There it is. Why did you chop it up? I hate you guys. Okay.
Assumed Republican nominee. Donald Trump recently caught on camera using obscenities to disparage President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris.
He's quit, you know, he's quitting the race. Is that right? Yep, I got him out of the race. And that means we have Kamala. I think she's going to be better. She's so bad. She's so pathetic. It's so amazing. It's just so bad. She's so bad. She's so pathetic. It's so amazing.
So, it would seem Donald Trump thinks they're replacing Joe Biden. After seeing the polls, I don't blame him for thinking that. Now, I want to talk to you about something. Because one trend that I have been noticing is that, including myself, is that I think people have been struggling to actually put a name to who it is that we should be supporting for president instead of in lieu of Joe Biden being the nominee. And I am thinking we might use, not right now, but sometime very soon, might do some sort of a voting system in the Galactic UN, do some sort of an informal Galactic Democratic primary, just to you know, kind of get the get the gears turning, right? Not that we have some sort of massive effect here, but could be. It just seems like a thing we should do. I'm thinking maybe ranked choice voting. I haven't completely decided on a system yet. Promise it won't be rigged. Cool. We got a few stories before we get to our environmental coverage. Let's go to this one first. U.S. jobs growth slowed in, I think it was May is when this data came from. And unemployment has ticked up to over 4% now. This is from Reuters from 7 hours ago.
The U.S. job market remains strong, but is loosening up. That's the takeaway from Friday's key non-farm payrolls report from the Labor Department, which showed the economy added 206,000 jobs in June, about 16,000 more than economists had expected. But the report also showed the unemployment rate ticked up to 4.1%, the highest in more than 2.5 years, partly due to more people entering the workforce. And wage gains moderated, signaling that inflation pressures continue to ease. Financial markets now expect the Federal Reserve, which aggressively hiked rates to tame soaring prices, to start cutting those rates as soon as September.
Now, that's entirely possible for the Federal Reserve to start cutting rates in September. They have, in fact, mentioned that as a possibility earlier this year, but it's all data dependent, as they say. It's their favorite phrase, it would seem. And so there's no way to say with any clarity that this will be enough to satiate the Federal Reserve's desires. A third support character. Who is that? Oh, it's on a freaking... Hold on. 6. Okay, who's 6? Neo. Oh boy, it's gonna be tight over here. Get in there. Okay. What are we moving on to next? Yes, this is a story that I was kind of shocked to hear about this. I never would have guessed that one would be related to the other in any way. But according to a new study, both Ozempic and Wegovy may be linked to quote-unquote eye stroke and blindness. I don't know what an eye stroke is, but it sounds terrifying.
A study has linked semaglutide with a condition called non-arteritic anterior ischemic optic neuropathy, more commonly referred to as NION.
Optometrist Dr. Mark Eltis says the condition is rare, but can cause rapid changes to a person's vision. It most often affects older people.
The optic nerve is deprived of blood flow and oxygen, and that's why...
Did I hear the news? I have no idea what that would be relating to. I mean, I feel like I did, because I've heard so much news. Constantly hearing the news, but no way to be sure unless you tell me what news you're referring to.
You get a sudden drop in vision. It can occur overnight, or it can occur over a few days until it stabilizes.
Dr. Joseph Rizzo is a neuro-ophthalmologist and began the study after diagnosing the condition in a few patients. His team observed an association with semaglutide.
For diabetes, it was more than 4 times, and for overweight patients, more than 7 times.
But Dr. Rizzo acknowledges the condition is uncommon.
The numbers that are often cited are up to 10 patients per 100,000 people per year. So in a city of 1 million people, you might anticipate 100 cases per year.
It's not like they're saying...
That doesn't make sense. I don't think the way he just did that math checks out. But 10 in 100,000 is very low. So... it affects a tiny fraction of the population that even uses this drug. But it's definitely something to at least be aware of. Okay. Now, let's look at this. This is our last non-environmental story. Hard to even say. I mean, it's good. I feel like it's actually turning into an environmental story as I'm saying it right now. But this is from the Associated Press from 7 hours ago, where according to them, rail cars filled with hazardous material have burst into flames after crashing in North Dakota. I wonder if Norfolk Southern or whomever it is that runs this train will be held accountable for the environmental damage this is going to do, or to the people living nearby. Drugs have side effects? Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You're totally right. Even Advil, even aspirin has dangers associated with it, but if we're not aware of them, how can we possibly know what's best? So many Vergonia flags in the Twitch chat. Is it Lego Space City or is it Lego City? I think it's Lego Space City. I could be wrong. I don't know. Okay. Well, we have been talking about Californian wildfires at just an alarming rate for the last month or so. They have been getting worse and worse, considering that the whole West Coast has been in a heat wave, in some places in California experiencing triple-digit heat over 110 degrees. So I figured we'd start with this one, discussing the sort of broad strokes of all these wildfires. So let's go to CBS.
We are tracking extreme heat and wildfires in California. Firefighters are making progress against a wall of flames north of Sacramento, which forced thousands to leave their homes, but they're doing it in record temperatures with a projected high today of 114 degrees. And in Mariposa, about 200 miles south of Oroville, another fast-moving wildfire, the French fire, erupted, triggering evacuations. Elise Preston is in Oroville, California, where the Thompson fire has been partially contained. So, Elise, how are firefighters doing this? I listened to one of your interviews yesterday. The guy said it's like putting all of your winter clothes on in the summer and then doing yard work.
That sounds horrible.
And doing arduous yard work, right, Lindsay? That was a very descriptive analogy. And let me tell you, this area is prone to wildfires. So you can see these charred trees behind me, but in some spots, the trees are gone from previous wildfires. And the firefighters said that because of that, they're not getting any shading while they're down there and really trying to attack the flames. So they're really just getting that intense heat.
Just getting blasted. Hold on. There's a part in here I wanted us to... Yeah, there it is. Oh my god. Go back. Okay. You know how much I love maps. They're just so good at giving us information.
Forested areas.
This is fucked.
Where it's really...
This map, we were just looking at a similar map recently. And the number of fires has increased dramatically. Did she say 114? That's a lot.
Terrain. So that's what they're fighting. There is still some wind that is down there, and it is the hot temperatures. But for the most part, the fire has moved away from people and homes.
All right, that's good. Let's talk about the French fire. What's its impact so far?
So right now, about 800 acres have been burned by this wildfire that's going in Mariposa, which is a historic town right outside of Yosemite. Evacuations are underway. Lindsay, the fire exploded overnight. When it started last night, it was around 400 acres. It's north of 800 now, about 800.
So it doubled. Okay. Now we're gonna kind of talk about at least a handful of these fires in more detail. First, I figured we'd talk about all of the fires that got started by fireworks, as there were multiple, I believe. If I'm not mistaken, let's start here. Cron 4, fire breaks out near Concord fireworks show. This is from 20 hours ago. Somebody, was it Bob who said we should do drones? I second that.
We do need to get to Concord now, where the fireworks show we had been showing you, but a fire has broken out at the Concord fireworks show. This was at Mount Diablo High School, I believe, is where this fireworks show was this evening. As you can see, there are flames there.
Looks like they're getting a handle on it, maybe.
It does, and I'm not sure, though, if it...
Yeah, thankfully, at least this fire was put out, but... You know, so much of this feels preventable.
Breaking overnight, several fires sparking in Contra Costa County. Fire crews were busy putting them out as many residents celebrated the 4th. Converse Michael Thomas live in Walnut Creek with a look at some of the fires firefighters tackled. I heard they were working all night, Michael. Morning.
Hey, good morning, everyone. That's right. These fires were able to be put out, and thankfully no injuries were reported, but a lot of them did go into the late night around 10 or 11 o'clock. Take a look. This is actually some video that we have of one of the bigger ones. This is over in Concord. It broke out during the official fireworks show from the city at Mount Diablo High School in Concord. Now, organizers say it started at the high school's baseball field and temporarily actually paused the show while crews were able to get those flames out. We were actually there live last night for one of our fireworks shows, so we captured this video live there on the scene at the time. They were able to get it under control, and the show eventually resumed at around 10 o'clock last night. No structures were involved, and as of right now, no injuries. This is video from the Antioch fire that happened last night. Now, this was a vegetation fire, and it caused evacuations to those nearby. Multiple crews were called to the scene to essentially protect those nearby structures, and you can see in that video just how wide it spread. Officials say there's no more information right now. They don't know exactly if the fire was caused by fireworks or not. It's still under investigation, but no injuries were reported. Another fire, take a look. This is over in Pittsburgh, and this is actually at a residential property. Thankfully, no structures were burned, but you can see just how close it came. That was a large tree that was on fire in front of a family's home, and again, this video was captured in that neighborhood.
And you can see fireworks going off in the sky. Jesus Christ. This is why we don't deserve these sorts of things. Jesus Christ. Oh, America. Where we prove that sometimes there is too much freedom. For fuck's sake. Okay. Now let's talk about some other fires here that have been going on. Jesus, there's so many of them. So fucking many of them. This one's actually... let's go to this one. Wildfire near Yosemite prompts...
new details this morning on...
Wait, settle down.
Arrest of a man near the...
Most of... oh my... just broke. Ah, there it is. Wildfire near Yosemite prompts evacuations and road closures.
Now, if you have plans to head to Yosemite this weekend, you might want to rethink that plan and think of an alternative. Mandatory evacuation orders now in effect in Mariposa County because of the wildfire that has doubled in size overnight. Now, Yosemite National Park, not threatened, but Highway 49 Mariposa route into the park is closed. That fire was reported around 6:30 last night, and within 12 hours burned almost 850 acres.
Wow. Nearly 1,000 acres in What did he say? 12 hours? 24 hours? And that happens to have a lot of fuel because it's a fucking national forest. The video looks sped up. I don't think it was. I think it's just the winds. California has been experiencing a bunch of really high winds, which have been fueling these fires, and spreading them. DJX, cool. Is that close to you, pal? I'm sorry. Stay safe. Stay safe. Anybody in California, please be aware. Keep your phone charged. Be ready to go. Have those things that you need, like medication and your ID, whatever else. I'm just thinking out loud. Maybe a photo album. Just thinking out loud here right now. Let's look at this. This is from an hour ago. NBC LA. I'm saying that with a much too excited voice. This is a live stream of the Hills Fire burning in Riverside County, prompting an evacuation order. Another one, because we've heard of like half a dozen of them in the last 48 hours, I want to say.
Hey, that's right. Pretty smoky the entire way out here, pretty hazy. You know, typically when we're flying to a brush fire like this, you can really see it out there on the horizon, but we couldn't see this thing until we were within about 10 miles. So if that's any...
Now, it looks like they've hit this area with a lot of fire retardant as well as water. So hopefully this doesn't spread. It looks like they were really on top of it, at least to some degree. Although it does seem to just keep burning. There's so much fuel out there for it to fucking burn. Jesus Christ. I know it doesn't look spectacular, it's just smoke, but with the winds that have been going on, that could spread to who knows where, right? Wind shifts and suddenly, you know, it's a mile away, multiple miles away. You're sure everything will be fine. I like that. It's a very optimistic attitude. Let's look at this. This is the Thompson fire in Northern California, which has been raging on. I think crews are starting to get at least part of it contained. Let's look at this.
Crews are battling multiple large fires in California as the West Coast faces a prolonged heat wave. In Oroville, the Thompson fire has scorched more than 3,700 acres since Tuesday. Fire crews say that 46% contained as of this morning, and further south in Mariposa County, the fast-moving French fire is 5% contained. The blaze began yesterday and has burned nearly 850 acres. CBS News correspondent Elise Preston joins us now from Sacramento, California. Elise, triple-digit temperatures are forecast in the West throughout next week. Could that fuel more wildfires?
Well, it could, Lana. Here in Sacramento, for example, it is expected to hit 111 degrees today, and those temperatures are sticking around. And this is what the heat does. Look at this field behind me. This is supposed to be grass. It is grass, but it is completely dried out.
Yeah, I guess that is grass. I thought it was just dirt.
So what the heat does is it takes that moisture and dries out the grass, and that eventually, or that turns into fuel for wildfires. And then the other thing is that it could also spark more fires. So that is what the firefighters are dealing with.
Yep.
Keep in mind.
All right. Let's move on. Fires, shark attacks, Joe Biden. Christ, what's the world coming to?
Jesus, I say that.
Maybe GSL is old. I'm 10,000 years old. That's right. I am very old. Galactically. Alright, we're not going to leave California quite yet. We have to talk about some of the other effects of this heat wave. It is not fires, it's actually killing fish in Fremont's Lake Elizabeth. This is from NBC Bay Area from a day ago.
Well, Lake Elizabeth has actually been a problem spot in Fremont for years, and now this heat wave is adding one more very obvious problem. Many.
Yeah, Texas. You're from Texas? Yeah, there were huge guys. I think we covered those. Weren't they like a historically large fire, like the largest fire ever in Texas?
Lake Elizabeth has actually been a problem spot in Fremont for years, and now this heat wave is adding one more very obvious problem. Many fish are dying. Fremont sees fish die every year around this time in Lake Elizabeth, an 83-acre waterway that only runs about 4 to 5 feet deep. But on Wednesday, crews realized they were seeing many more dead carp, catfish, and trout floating to the surface. Many 4th of July visitors spotted them as well.
We just kept on noticing something in the water, and as we walked and walked, we realized it was fish, and it just piled up. But so many, especially towards the entrance where the water exits.
I noticed the smell initially. It was really weird because this is usually where we come for fresh air and things like that, but I don't think we'll be enjoying this anymore.
Fremont officials told us by phone they called in a water expert this morning who confirmed what they feared.
These fish are not used to these excessive temperatures, and excessive temperatures are causing the water oxygen levels to deplete. And
Yep, exactly. We've been talking about the effects of heat and low oxygen levels in the water. Much of that is caused by the overgrowth of algae and other sorts of things like that because of the heat that are under the water. They take all the when there's an imbalance, they take all of the oxygen out, I believe. Is that how it works? I think that's right. Might actually be getting that wrong. Either way, this heat wave is killing fish and at an alarming rate. So many sweet emotes in the Twitch chat right now. Okay, now let's talk about the southwestern United States as it relates to summer rains, which bring relief but also flooding.
The monsoon, in its simplest terms, is just a seasonal shift of the winds. People think monsoon, they immediately think rainfall. Well, monsoon really just has to do with the wind and that seasonal shift of the winds. We saw those westerly winds in the upper levels of the atmosphere relax, and so that allowed moisture to intrude into New Mexico, and next thing you know, showers and thunderstorms are developing, and a lot of the moisture that has been in place has been very high, very abnormally high. And so that's led to a lot of very intense thunderstorms with very heavy rainfall. We usually don't see that till maybe the first or second week of July, but boy, has it come in with a real bang here in New Mexico. You know, there are some indications that the latter part of July could turn a little bit drier. However, as you get into later parts of August into September, There are some indications that we might be looking at a more active monsoon pattern across New Mexico, and that would imply more showers and more thunderstorms. We're seeing a lot more extreme events. Yes, if you take...
And the thing is, I feel like the wildfires that we've seen in New Mexico have kind of taken our eye off of the ball with the flooding that's been happening there. But it sounds like, at least according to this one scientist who seems to have quite a lot of equipment and whatever else at this, I don't know exactly where that was. I assume it was some sort of meteorological office of some kind. They are saying that the potential for serious floods later this year is definitely increased due to the weather patterns that we've been seeing. We have to talk about Hurricane Beryl. But before we do that, let's talk about something happening on the East Coast. It is hot right now. Thank you for the hydrate. Before we talk about that, let's go to the East Coast and talk about a fire that is now happening in Wharton State Forest in New Jersey. One side of the country to the other. Same story. This thing is fucking huge. That is insane. That's got to be nearly 1,000 acres what we're looking at. Maybe less. Well, it's a lot. When is monsoon? I think he was saying late August and September. One thing, maybe, yeah, I think he said September, sometime in September. This is like ABC Philadelphia. You were censored. Why were you censored?
Breaking news out of Burlington County, New Jersey. Look at this. Chopper 6 is live over the growing scene here as firefighters are working to put out this massive wildfire that broke out this morning. Officials say the area that is burning is near the Batona campground, which has now been evacuated. If we zoom in here, you can see the flames just leaping from the tree line. Fire officials say firefighters are utilizing backfire operations to burn the fuel, burn the timber ahead of the main body of the fire. They're trying to contain this blaze as it's spreading here in South Jersey. Stay with Action News as we continue to monitor the spread of the flames and the efforts to attempt to contain this.
Yeah, and it's a difficult spot. That's, you can't get any hoses out there. You can only do helicopters and planes. Hectares? It's a fun word, hectares. All right, let's look at some more updated footage. This is from 4 hours ago. Same fire. It is getting out of control quickly, it would seem. according to this title, it's hundreds of acres have burned. Not exactly sure how many hundreds. What does this Game Master do if I redeem it? Is that even set up? I thought I'd turned that off because I'm not doing any games, so you couldn't make any decisions on what I do, which is what that was for. Is it? I gotta turn that off. Don't use it. Do not use. Okay, so at least, I mean, that was only 4 hours ago, so my assumption is that fire is still definitely burning. Hopefully they have figured out some method of containment for this thing. Looked like there was a fair bit of wind as the smoke was going pretty sideways. So that's not good. But we have other not good stuff to look at, so we can't stay focused on any one thing for too long. Let's talk about Hurricane Beryl, which has, apparently, according to CBS News, left Jamaica almost entirely without power. 2 days ago, we were optimistic that Jamaica was going to get passed by. Unfortunately, that did not happen.
Let's change gears now. Heading over to Hurricane Beryl, we have been keeping a very close eye on this track as it has devastated many communities. Anywhere from Jamaica yesterday over into St. Vincent just 2 days ago. As we zoom in and we can see this track, it is still strong. It's sitting at a Category 3 right now. The center of it, the max wind sitting around 115 miles per hour as it swirls its way close to the Yucatan Peninsula. Now, as we take a look at conditions, anywhere from Mexico all the way over into the Gulf, we're still under hurricane watches and warnings. This remains in effect as we head into the next coming days. Watching this track move its way close to the inland areas of the Yucatan Peninsula, it'll hit around a Category 2. Those are strong winds. It regains a little bit of strength potentially in our forecasted models right now as it re-enters the Gulf, and then we're expected to watch it move slowly up into Texas. So storm surge.
Hold on. We don't need to watch this because this is a slightly older story. Just wanted to watch this part of it. Where is it? I think this is where they actually talk about what the situation on the ground. Here we go.
More placid, a little more tranquil behind you than it has in previous hours.
Yeah, that's absolutely right, Reed. But Beryl was relentless and ferocious as it bared down on Jamaica last night and lasted late into the night. Now, when the sun came up, Beryl was gone. We were able to survey some of the damage. What we did see were relatively minor forms of damage. So uprooted trees ripped off of the ground and tossed onto the sides of the roads. We also saw behind me in this marina, way over there, we saw about 3 to 4 sunken ships. But overall, the damage far less severe than what we had feared or even anticipated. Now, I want to take a look at the water here. You can see that it is calm and tranquil, as you mentioned, but it is far from that classic electric blue that is so synonymous with the Caribbean. Instead, it is murky. It's a little green from all the sediment that was kicked up from that powerful storm surge that crashed along these rocks here. One of the main concerns, though, and this is new information just coming into us moments ago from the U.S. Embassy, is what you cannot see, which is power. More than half, 60% of this island is without electricity right now. And I can tell you, Reed, it is hot here. It is in the upper 80s today, expected to reach into the 90s here. So that is a huge point of concern. The other thing, as we were documenting those ships that were sunk at the marina, you can smell that the water is definitely contaminated in certain parts with sewage. So drinking water also up in the air, and it's very much up in the air when it will all be restored.
Yeah, those are all bad. Those are all bad. 60% of people without power and water now being contaminated. Not a good combination. Okay. That was a slightly older video. That was from a day ago. Now let's look at some updates to what's been happening. This is from 10 hours ago. Hurricane Beryl makes landfall in Mexico as a Category 2 hurricane.
Hurricane Beryl is slamming Mexico's eastern coast this morning. On the Yucatan Peninsula, locals and travelers are trapped by extreme conditions, with the Category 2 storm carrying winds up to 110 miles an hour. The area includes tourist hotspots like Tulum, Playa del Carmen, and Cozumel. The storm weakened slightly after devastating Caribbean islands earlier this week, and the Texas Gulf Coast is now bracing for impact as well. Our Janet Shamlian is in South Padre Island, Texas, with the latest. So, Janet, first, let's get to Beryl. It has made landfall in Mexico. What do we know so far?
Hi, Lindsay. Good to be with you today from South Padre Island. You're right about that. It came ashore as a Category 2. That's much weaker than the Cat 5 that made landfall closer to Jamaica a couple of days ago. But nonetheless, it just happened within the last couple of hours, so they're still assessing damage there. What that means, though, is that it's going to weaken further as it passes over the Yucatan Peninsula and into the Gulf, and then it stands a chance of re-strengthening. But in terms of what it has already done, at least 7 deaths have been attributed to this storm. It is the earliest Cat 5 Atlantic storm on record, Lindsay.
How are people prepared?
Yep. Actually, no, I think we're going to move on to the next one. South Padre Island. Southern Dad Island. Alright, let's look at this. This came out a couple hours after that last report. New data showing that Beryl is likely to track through Texas while still at a Category 1 hurricane level. Earlier they were pointing to it going away from Texas, but now things have changed.
I'm ABC 13 meteorologist Rachel Bryers. We have just gotten the latest track in from the National Hurricane Center, the latest update as of 10 a.m. So let's go ahead and let's take a closer look at Hurricane Beryl. It has weakened after making landfall down to a Category 1 status. Max wind speeds of 85 miles per hour, but still looking at max wind gusts around 115 miles per hour. Now, I do want you to notice where this is located on the Yucatan Peninsula. It is more on the northern side of the cone. So with that being said, the National Hurricane Center has actually shifted that cone a bit more to the north. So let's break down the timeline here. This is expected to move back over into the Gulf of Mexico, or just over into the Gulf, as we head into Friday night, most likely as a tropical storm. Then as we head into the day tomorrow, it should continue to move off to the northwest, but it may take more of a northerly turn as we head into Sunday. Now, something else to notice on here, the fact that it could re-intensify into a Category 1, possibly, can't even rule out the potential for a Category 2 as it makes its way closer to that coastline as we head into Sunday night or even going into Monday morning. So, and then...
Yeah. And because of the current like pressure that's like residing over the Midwest, it might very well get pulled across this southern coast here, like Louisiana as well. But this is not what Texas needs. We have looked at some absolutely insane flooding in South Texas. Mostly Houston and places near Houston. Those people are still recovering from that last storm. It looks like Archer's complaining about Pink Panther. Wow. Unexpected. Okay, what else do we got to talk about here? By the way, the numbers have now increased from 7 dead to 11 dead in the Caribbean. That's the most recent update I have to any of this. Let's quickly look at this before we go across the ocean. Let's go all the way north to Nova Scotia, where a dead humpbacked whale washed up on the Nova Scotian shore. Now, actually, that's not a very good title, because it doesn't really describe what happened. The humpback whale washed up not dead, and then died. That's actually what happened.
It's an unusual and unfortunate sight, a dead humpback whale in Nova Scotia's Shubenacadie River.
It's definitely not their area. It's very shallow waters, very hard for them to move around and figure out where to go.
The rarity of it is attracting onlookers.
Mud's just way too treacherous to get through.
As marine animal experts try to get closer to understand just what happened.
And this animal's 11 meters and probably weighs 19 to 20 tons, so you can't just pick it up.
The adult humpback was first spotted on Monday, stuck but alive. This river raft tour operator got a call about the sighting and went out to find it, and members of the Marine Animal Response Society arrived to help.
We just had buckets of water and would keep them wet and try to keep them comfortable.
The Shubenacadie River drains into the Minas Basin, which forms the eastern part of the Bay of Fundy, a feeding ground for humpbacks.
Oh, that thing got way deep in that river. That is unexpected. I wonder what it was that caused it to do such a thing.
Every 12 hours, the 72-kilometer tidal river transforms from shallow sandbars to more than 3 meters or 11 feet of water. Last month, a minke whale also found itself stranded in the Shubenacadie, but seemed to find its way out at high tide. The hope was the same would happen here. Instead, the humpback was found dead Tuesday for...
Well, that's an unfortunate end to that. I should add an option to redeem for emotional support characters. Interesting. Interesting. Could be an idea. Could be an idea. It might be popular. Okay. Let's go across the pond to France, where they are asking the question over at Reuters whether or not the River Seine will be swimmable for the Paris Olympics, as they were expecting to use the river for the triathlon, among other events.
The race is on for Paris to clean up the River Seine in time for the Olympic Games this summer. More than 100 years ago, athletes were able to swim in the river during the Paris Olympics in 1900. It has become a lot dirtier since then. Heavy rain causes the Parisian sewage system to overflow and be discharged directly into the river, polluting it with fecal bacteria. As a result, bathing was banned in 1923. But this summer, Olympic swimmers and triathletes are scheduled to compete in the Seine. The city has been working hard to make that a reality, but has Paris done enough to make the Seine safe? The quality of the Seine's water has definitely improved. The latest data shows it was suitable for swimming on 6 of the 9 days between June 24th and July 2nd. To make that determination, testers measured the levels of 2 fecal bacteria, E. coli and Enterococcus fecalis.
So, 3 of the 9 days, it had E. coli and other shit-related bacteria in it. Great, that inspires confidence. Definitely where you want to hold an Olympic swimming event. Makes sense. Totally checks out. Okay. I've just got a couple more things to look at here. Let's go to Italy, where more than one volcanoes are erupting at the same time. Yesterday, we talked about how Mount Etna was erupting. There's also another one, but first I figured we'd start off by looking at more footage of this Mount Etna eruption, which is just awe-inspiring. Let's go straight to this, as Italy's Stromboli volcano is also erupting. Since yesterday, Stromboli has been under special surveillance with greater attention because at the red level, so the maximum scale of attention, let's call it scientific, followed by a series of operational activities. From an operational point of view, we are in what we call technically early warning. The mayor has already issued prohibition orders for the night. Today it will not be possible to reach the island. The so-called daily travelers, those who go in the morning and come back in the afternoon. Yeah, okay. Stromboli erupted, now there's cheese and sauce everywhere. Wow. Let's go on. One last environmental story here to look at. This is from Reuters. How rising temperatures have devastated Bali coral reefs. If you're not aware, Bali is in southeastern Asia.
What was once a sea of colourful reefs off northern Bali has now turned ghostly white. For the past 16 years, Indonesian conservationist Nyoman Sugiarto has been working to preserve coral reefs near his village Bondalam. But his work was undone by recent mass coral bleachings, which he blames on warmer sea temperatures triggered by climate change.
Dan sekarang
coral was almost 90% bleached at that time, no matter which type of coral.
Melihat jenis sekarang lagi, mau branching,
it was
mau
branching or it was massive, they were all white.
Semua memutih. Jadinya kami sangat terkejut dan
so we are shocked that, of
tentunya
course,
itu juga berpengaruh sangat negatif kepada karang yang kami tanam. Bukan hanya yang alami, yang kami tanam ini yang sebenarnya membuat kami nyesek gitu loh. Jadinya dada ini nyesek. Terus banyak karang yang kita tanam itu mati gitu loh.
Coral bleaching occurs when coral expels the colourful algae living in its tissues. Without the algae, the coral becomes pale and vulnerable to disease or death. In April, the US National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration said more than 50% of coral reefs in the oceans are experiencing bleaching level heat stress. It's the fourth global bleaching event in the last 3 decades.
Yeah, and we've been talking about it ever since they announced it. And it's been hitting basically every coral reef, like they were saying, or at least half of them. So it's a problem. And the fact is there are people trying their very best to help replenish them, like he was talking about, with planting of coral, but planted corals have the same problems as regular corals. With the heat. Now some scientists have been working on genetically engineering coral to be more resilient to the negative impacts of climate change, such as heat, but those are only so effective, right? We need to drastically change how fast things are going. We gotta turn the other direction. Actually, hold on. I don't know, I'm switching. I'm just...
Indonesia accounts for 18% of the world's total coral reefs. That's according to the country's tourism ministry. Coral bleaching in Bali in 2023 was mainly caused by rising sea temperatures caused by the El Niño phenomenon. Even though Indonesia's corals are more resilient and tend to recover faster, marine expert Martin Welly says it won't be enough to withstand climate change.
Proses
coral
bleaching atau pemanasan global itu akan lebih sering terjadi di Indonesia. Kalau sebelumnya itu dari 98 ke 2010 ke 2016 ke 2000, itu waktunya semakin rentang waktunya semakin singkat, dan diprediksi untuk waktu-waktu mendatang di Indonesia itu akan, atau di Indo-Pasifik akan semakin sering terjadi yang namanya coral.
Or the Indo-Pacific between the next one or 2 years within the current temperature. We got to make that not the reality. That this occurs more frequently. My first suggestion is for us to stop with the methane. That's one of the things that we've been talking about recently, but that's only one in a basket of choices we should be taking all at once. All right. Kind of on time right now. Killing it. Come on. There we go. Well, I hope everybody has been enjoying the stream so far. If you haven't already, hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe. We really need to get those subscriber numbers up to 500, because until then, YouTube is refusing to allow me to even attempt to be paid. That said, if you've already done both of those things, and you want to contribute even more, well, we got one great option, and that's becoming a Galactic producer on Patreon. Where like a whole host of galactic benefits are awaiting you. Now, if you're not a fan of Patreon or getting sweet, sweet galactic benefits there, you have one other option. You can go on to my Twitch, where you can gift bits, subs, and all sorts of other stuff. I think we got like 30 plus galactic emotes on Twitch for you to access if you so choose. Anyway, chat, galactic intermission incoming. So shake out those legs, grab yourself a drink, perhaps a snack, and I'll be right back. the way, can anybody tell who that is? I know it's hard, it's a shadow. But I had it in new person. Dancing. That is not fry dancing. It's actually a meme. If anybody, rack your mind for memes, and it will hopefully come to at least one person in chat. You don't know memes? Okay, okay. Well, maybe I'll just keep it a secret. The Galactic secret. Good to see all of you showing up, even if you're late. You thought it was that one guy. Okay. Well, it's time for that global news, so get back in those seats, folks. Your intermission is coming to an end. What are we going to start with today? Let's see. Oh, yes. We're going to go right across the pond to the UK, where the election is in full focus. As the votes are in, things have happened. However, I figured we'd start it off. Since we don't have any actual galactic news aside from this, I figured we'd do this one first. UK election. Count Binface has some big ideas for democracy.
Thank you for speaking to me today. I know it's obviously we're hours away from the election.
It's a busy time for old Binface, and but I always make time for important news outlets.
Why come to Earth and stand in elections multiple times, and especially in elections with the leading candidates?
So I always take on the most powerful individual in the land, and this is going to be my hat trick of Tory Prime Ministers: Mrs. May, Mr. Johnson. You can ignore Ms. Truss, who cares about her. And now Rishi Sunak in electoral combat. It's the wonder of democracy, and I'm here to cherish it, defend it, and celebrate it.
So is it more about sending a message to voters or to politicians?
Both, equally.
With the
I send to voters, I say, use your vote, because democracy in Canada, just like in the UK, is under threat like never before. I also say, use your ability to stand. In the UK, literally, anybody can stand for election, no matter how ludicrous your platform, no matter how idiotic your get-up. Don't worry, I'm not naming any names, but the point is everybody has the same right, and my message to voters is, it's wonderful. My message to politicians is, I am going to hold you to account. With the best manifesto, the best policies, the best personality.
What is it like standing up there, with sometimes it's a prime minister on these declarations?
The first thing I'll say is it's very, very hot. You have no idea. The claustrophobia, the lack of liquid,
seriously,
and the lights coming down. For me, the heat is punishing.
Gotta say, wearing a helmet is much hotter than you think. Ugh.
Received 24,000 votes, more than 24,000 votes in the recent London mayoral election. Who is voting for you?
Londoners.
That's a great answer.
That there is a steady caucus.
I just want to hear that again. That's the best, like, dry answer you could possibly give.
Who is voting for you?
Londoners.
Yeah. Makes perfect sense.
It must mean
Checks out.
that there is a steady caucus of alien-loving voters in the Earth capital, London. I think that's worthy of more journalistic attention than it has so far received.
Is there any worry that you or Mr. Elmo will pull support away from any of the other candidates, leaving then the chance for, you know, a different party to gain support or at least advance further than they would otherwise?
It's called democracy, right? And some Labour supporters go, oh, how dare you stand because you'll draw votes away from Labour and help Rishi to stay in. Do you know what? If the only thing that makes people not vote Labour is the presence of an alien with a bin for a head and a croissant-fixated manifesto, that says to me that the Labour Party needs to try a little bit harder.
In the
So true. So true. If he is somehow a threat to Labour, then yeah, I think trying a bit harder is the way to go. Okay, alright. Enough Galactic news as it relates to the election, at least for now. I would point out that I personally endorsed Count Binface for MP. It's good to see him out there doing his thing. As we are both comrades in galactic domination, I can't help but support the Count. All right, now let's talk about maybe, perhaps some might say, more consequential things relating to the election. First, let's start it off with this from Associated Press 14 hours ago, where the UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak announced his resignation following its election loss. Hey, thanks for the gifted sub, Looney Tunes. What is that, I gifted it directly to Twitchy Schmegley. Twitchy Schmegley, you're now no longer going to be subjected to capitalist advertisements from Jeffy Bezos, and instead you will be enjoying this stream in full, as well as having access to some super sweet galactic emotes in chat. Alright, let's listen to Rishi Sunak concede the election.
Good morning. I will shortly be seeing His Majesty the King to offer my resignation as Prime Minister. To the country, I would like to say first and foremost, I am sorry. I have given this job my all, but you have sent a clear signal that the government of the United Kingdom must change, and yours is the only judgment that matters. I have heard your anger, your disappointment, and I take responsibility for this loss. Following this result, I will step down as party leader, not immediately, but once the formal arrangements for selecting my successor are in place.
So he's not only resigning as Prime Minister, not resigning, he lost, but he's resigning as well from leadership in the Tory party, creating something of a political void for the Conservatives here. Her dress is mental. It looks like somebody deconstructed a British flag and then pieced it back together in the form of a dress. An ill-fitting dress.
It is important that after 14 years in government, the Conservative Party rebuilds, but also that it takes up its crucial role in opposition professionally and effectively. Whilst he has been my political opponent, Sir Keir Starmer will shortly become our...
Is her outfit part of the apology? Ah, well played. Well played. Oh, God. It could be. I don't know. She didn't say a single word for this. She just stood there as still as a statue holding that umbrella. Which I feel like, if anything, the umbrella has got to be part of it. Or at least it feels somehow like, because if you've been watching this footage or at least keeping up with the British election, like Rishi announced his plan for this snap election in the rain, and 1 month later, in the speech where he's resigning, she's got the umbrella holding onto it just in case. You know, it's just, oh God, full circle on that one. It's like the opposite of foreshadowing. I don't know what that is. I can't think of what the sort of literary term you would use in that case, but it's like, yeah. Post-shadowing. Okay, now let's look at this. This is from the AP from 8 hours ago, where Keir Starmer went to meet with King Charles III.
Sir Keir Starmer, Your Majesty.
Your Majesty. You must be utterly exhausted.
Your Majesty.
On your knees, but not actually. Quite a grueling. Yes. Anyway, you're here. Yes. It's a very sort of quick change over.
Oh my God, I don't know why, but the decor in the palace, or whatever you call it, it's just it gives me like grandma vibes. Like, it's 2024 and they haven't updated the interior since like 1920 or something. I'm not saying that they need to or anything. They already spent enough money. But it's this weird vibe. It's always such a weird vibe in here.
To say the least. And having to get to grips with everything straight away must be quite exhausting.
Yes. Okay, Keir.
I have just returned from Buckingham Palace, where I accepted an invitation from His Majesty the King to form the next government of this great nation.
Now, I personally have some issues with Keir Starmer's form of governance, not just inside the Labour Party, but some of his espoused policy desires and decisions. But it's certainly better than the Conservatives. It's quantifiable. But he has done some things that I would disagree with. So this isn't necessarily a Keir Starmer victory lap for us here at the Galactic News Network, more as a victory lap of anti-Tory bullshit, really.
You have given us a clear mandate, and we will use it to deliver change, to restore service and respect to politics, end the era of noisy performance, tread more lightly on your lives, and unite our country. 4 nations standing together again, facing down, as we have so often in our past, the challenges of an insecure world, committed to a calm and patient rebuilding.
Okay. We're not going to listen to everything that Mr. Starmer here has to say, but definitely got some more stuff to talk about as it relates to this election. Do I skip this next one? I don't feel like we need this. Yeah, let's go to this one. Skip one of these. Labour celebrates victory in the UK, but challenges lie ahead according to this analyst. It looks to me like Archer's like whispering something into Neo's ear. What he's saying, I don't know. Somebody earlier...
Just because Labour have won a big landslide doesn't mean all the problems that the Conservative government has faced has gone away. Migration is the obvious one. Labour is going to need to find a solution to the small boats coming across the channel. It's going to ditch the Rwanda scheme, but it's going to have to come up with other solutions to deal with that particular problem. Intelligence-led policing will be one of them, trying to smash the gangs is another, and faster processing of those asylum seekers already in the country. The challenges for the Labour government are putting public services right. The National Health Service is in crisis in this country. It's going to take quite a lot of money in order to restore its fortunes. The question is where Labour is going to get that money from and how quickly it can manage to do it.
Okay. These are some of the problems, but I gotta say, not sending all migrants coming to the UK to Rwanda does seem like a good start. Which, because I think we've sat here and criticized that plan on a number of different levels, including the fact that, you know, it wasn't that long ago that Rwanda had some problems with, I don't know, genocide and ethnic cleansing, and I just don't have a lot of, for that reason alone, I don't have a lot of confidence in that plan. Aside from the obvious criticisms of, I don't know, people coming to the UK and not Rwanda. You would think they might have a reason for going to the UK in particular. Okay, let us talk a little bit more detail on this here. There's one piece. Ah, fuck. Why didn't I write this down? Oh, I do this to myself way too much. Want to watch this Novara media piece, but it's an hour long, and I'm trying to remember where it is that I think we'll just watch the beginning, where he just kind of wraps up what happened.
Welcome to Novara Live. I'm Michael Walker, and I'm somewhat rested after our marathon live stream last night. Aaron Bastani, how are you feeling? A little bit worse for wear?
Worse for wear is probably a good way to describe it, Michael. I'm so tired. I was just looking at myself in the camera. One of my eyes is somewhat smaller than the other. That's when you know. That's when you know you're really tired. One of the eyes starts to shrink. But for good reason. Really interesting election. So I'm looking forward to tonight's conversation. It's a must watch.
You would have had us going for longer last night as well. When I said it's coming up to 5, we might wrap up. Aaron was like, "What? But Waverley Valley still hasn't announced." And it came through in my ear that there was going to be a revolt in the mixing room. So luckily we did get to go home. Labour has won a landslide majority of 170 seats, and Britain has a new Prime Minister.
One of the great strengths of this nation has always been our ability.
Hold on. We don't need to listen to this speech again.
Prime Ministerial. He did look fairly prime ministerial there, didn't he? It was the first time in a while, I think, we've had someone speak outside Downing Street where you couldn't hear Steve Bray, you know, the Stop Brexit man, sort of playing some kind of comedy music in the background, which is maybe why it seemed a bit more, you know, a bit more, it seemed more of an occasion than sometimes when we saw the Tory prime ministers come out. Keir Starmer sort of stressed moderation, and I think there he was sort of trying to stress delivery. He was saying, I'm not going to be all talk. People have come out here and said, you know, we'll level up or we'll tackle the great injustices. That was Theresa May, wasn't it? But no one did anything. Judge me on my record. Keir Starmer also, the first thing you do when you become Prime Minister, appointed his cabinet. As far as I understand, no surprises there. Rachel Reeves is the Chancellor. Most of the shadow ministers have ended up just being given their jobs. So they were the shadow minister for health. Now they're the health minister. The only big changes, I suppose, are the people who lost their seats. So I know that Fangam Debonair, who lost her seat, she was Shadow Culture Secretary. Lisa Nandy now has that job. Aaron, we'll get on to a proper analysis of the results in a moment and what happened last night.
Yes, let's do that. I think it's after It's right here. God dang it.
And in the new government that's coming in, they're looking for an end to things like the two-child benefit policy cap. They're looking for regulation of the private rented sector. And if I may say so, they're also looking for a government that on the world stage will search for peace, not war, and not allow the terrible conditions to go on that are happening in Gaza at the present time.
So in total, if you include Corbyn in the figure, Labour lost 5 seats to independent candidates with a stronger position on Gaza than Keir Starmer. And they could have lost more. Wes Streeting won his seat with only 528 more votes than the British Palestinian candidate Liane Mohammed, who came in second. Wes Streeting, sort of pipped to be the future leader of the Labour Party, could have lost his seat to a pro-Palestine candidate.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, in Bethnal Green and Bow, Rushanala Ali went from a...
That's definitely been one of our criticisms here at the Galactic News Network about Keir Starmer's Labour Party. They have not been pro-Gaza or pro-Palestinian pretty much at all, and have in fact ousted some pro-Palestinian voices from the party. Although, who was let back in? Oh, shit. Diane? I don't know. I can't remember. I wish I was better. Trying to keep track of it all in my head. How far are we in right now? Hold on. I think we're gonna go to this next one, mostly because this is just a super long piece from Novara. It's honestly great coverage, but it is lengthy, and I cannot remember which parts I wanted to watch, and that's my fault, and you can blame me for that, chat, and I do apologize. Let's talk about what happened to the election on the other side here of the ticket. First, let's discuss the Reform Party here, where Farage, fucking Nigel Farage, head racist, won his seat in Clacton-on-Sea.
What is interesting is there's no enthusiasm for Labour, there's no enthusiasm for Starmer whatsoever. In fact, about half of the vote is simply an anti-Conservative vote. This Labour government will be in trouble very, very quickly. We will now be targeting Labour votes. We're coming for Labour, be in...
Now, I mean, part of that analysis is kind of right, as, you know, Labour under Keir Starmer have kind of pushed center, right? Instead of trying to appeal to more leftists, they've kind of been doing like a Joe Biden, right? And trying to get votes from the center, from the disenfranchised right, if you will. And I don't like that plan. I don't think anybody here likes that plan. And we saw it, especially as it relates to Gaza, right? Where, you know, some of the more centrist candidates lost to pro-Gaza people, candidates. Although I'm still glad that Labour just destroyed the Conservatives by, you know, if we were only given those two choices, I'd be, you know, saying that's the best outcome possible. However, some Green candidates have actually won seats that weren't expected to win seats. And generally, like, leftist independent candidates did much better than were expected. All right, now let's look at this. This is, if anybody here is familiar with UK politics, this will probably make you giggle inside. Maybe have some tiny piece of joy during this stream. This is from Channel 4 News from 11 hours ago. According to them, they've got footage from inside the night that Jacob Rees-Mogg lost his Somerset seat.
A new drizzly dawn. The weather the only thing to rain on Labour's parade. A procession to power that swept through places like here in northeast Somerset and Hanham, a constituency where Sir Keir was hoping to topple Sir Jacob. Rees-Mogg won this constituency at the last 4 elections, but as the exit poll bore fruit and the count began, he was putting on a brave face, smiling while also delivering a post-mortem.
How are you feeling so far? I'm feeling tickety-boo.
Yeah? Tickety-boo?
Tickety-boo.
How's the count going so far?
Well, I mustn't preempt the count. We'll get the result when it comes. I mean, I have a pretty good idea.
But you are feeling tickety-boo?
That may not have anything to do with the count. That may be just a personal reflection. The exit poll is terrible. I think it's clear that we took our core vote for granted, and therefore a lot of our core vote has gone off to reform.
Come 5 a.m, things were no longer tickety-boo. The former cabinet man ousted by Labour's Dan Norris, the current mayor of the west of England, who Rees-Mogg beat in 2010.
And then you pass it on to someone else. It happens to be my turn to take it now. Thank you, everybody. Have a great evening. Appreciate that.
As the microphone was then passed to the now former MP, Rees-Mogg used words from Chitty Chitty Bang Bang to offer some hope for the future.
From Galactic's pots, and that is, from the ashes of disaster, grow the roses of success. So thank you very much to everybody.
Something he kept repeating as he left the count.
From the ashes of disaster, grow the roses of success. And I think that must be the motto of the Conservative Party.
Do you have any regrets, Jacob, about your time as an MP, as a time within the cabinet?
Serving North East Somerset as a member of Parliament
no regrets?
has been an absolute honour. I've been so delighted to do it.
Rees-Mogg may...
Now just remember, Jacob Rees-Mogg is just a despicable dude. It's hard to even think of all the worst things that he's gotten behind, because it's just the majority of what he's been a fan of is just bad. He's just a shitty guy. But you know, that phrase that he used there at the end, from the ashes of disaster are born the roses of success. It's from a little movie called Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
I came here to repair the telephone. That was 24 years ago. They have terrible torture.
Terrible.
The thumb screw and the rack. They stretch you and stretch you.
Oh, God.
When I first came here, I was a midget.
I love how he quoted from a scene where it's just a room full of the oldest dudes ever seen. Just Brexit alone, yeah, that's a good start.
Every glowing path that goes astray shows you how to find a better way. So every time you stumble, never grumble.
Next time you bumble even less.
For up from the ashes, up from the ashes, grow the roses of success. Grow.
This is glorious. This is glorious. Just amazing. I feel like that was an apt analogy. Or maybe not. It's just, it does feel very, at least just this scene right here. Now, I highly doubt that they're going to come back and get a lot of success. This is just my Is my feeling about it. I highly doubt that the Conservatives have a real compelling case to make anymore. Because they've been in power for a while, just kind of fucking shit up repeatedly. Okay, now let's look at somebody who's actually popular that hangs out at 10 Downing Street. Little somebody by the name of Larry the Cat.
I think he has universal appeal. And he's a cat, you know, he knows how to charm the media. So he basically has this way of, posing for all of us. And I think he's also quite aware and quite media savvy when it comes to big moments. So
the cat is
the fact that he's
savvy.
always on TV and it's become this kind of a, iconic thing to see him in Downing Street. People associate him with Downing Street, and even kids who go to visit Downing Street, the first thing they do is they ask about Larry, not the Prime Minister. And
jeez, it's tough to be a prime minister these days, outshined by a cat. That's fair, though. Larry is pretty awesome, at least from what I can tell. I think I'm a pretty good judge of feline character. Speaking of judge of character, I knew I was right to back this candidate. Here is Count Binface's speech after the general election results were released to the public.
Well, it's a historic night, Count Ministers, wouldn't you say? 308 actual votes from actual humans. That, my friends, is a bin-face record. It's an extraterrestrial record in a British parliamentary election. I am over the moon and several planets, just like I am about the fact that the electoral asteroid has hit the Conservative Party, and we can all have a damn good laugh about that too. I'm also happy.
Yeah. Killed it. 308 total. Did they say 308? That's wow. Incredible turnout. Galactic salute to you there, Binface. Alright, on to non-British news. We're finally done. Just figured we would have fun there. You know, I realized recently, looking at my analytics according to YouTube, 3 top countries of watchers here at the stream are United States, Canada, and the UK. So that's why I decided we should give the old election there full inspection. Now, let's go to France, where they're also having an election. A snap election. Seems like there's a weird vibe going on in politics right now. Not sure what people are up to with this plan. Doesn't seem to be working for anybody who's calling for them. Yeah, I guess we go to this one first. This is from CNN, where Christine Amanpour had on Marine Le Pen to discuss some of her, I want to say qualities, but that's being much too generous. Some of her human attributes.
Can I ask you, because you have spent a long time trying to rebrand your party to the extent that here you are on the verge of potentially taking power in government, but there's still a lot of troubling statements from members of your actual current party, including people who are currently, candidates for this election. Like North Africans came to power in 2016. These people have no place in high places, in high positions. Ministerial positions must be held by Franco-French people, un point c'est tout. I mean, then there was a very unfortunate image of a mixed-race child in Brittany carrying a Breton flag, and then there was racist insults, and then this candidate put a white face, and he labeled it true Brittany, false Brittany.
Madame, there are...
No, I just want to ask you, is this acceptable now in today's RN?
We had to put forward, we had to come up with 1,000 candidates in 48 hours. 1,000 candidates. 1,000 candidates in 48 hours. Let's be very clear. Jordan Bardella said very clearly that people who have made unacceptable comments will be brought before the movement's Conflicts Commission and will most certainly be excluded from the movement, as others have been in the past. See, I mean...
Now, here's the thing, right? Marine Le Pen, she's actually very smart politically, if you will. She has been credited with giving the RN a, what do you call it? Like something of a acceptable facade, if you will, at least to broader groups than it had previously under her father's leadership. As her father, Jean, oh shit, what's his name? I can't think of it now. I think his name is Jean-Marie Le Pen, which is why it always throws me off. But yeah, this makeover, that's a good word for it. Now, the fact is they continued to espouse the exact same policies that were espoused previously under her father's leadership. And so there's really no difference aside from the they have, in fact, to some degree, not entirely, but to some degree, tamped down on the outward sort of blatant racism. Rather, they're attempting to do it on legal grounds, right? In the government, which I think is to some degrees worse, right? I mean, hard to quantify with this kind of shit, but you know, having that sort of facade up in order to enact just horrific anti-immigrant, especially anti-Muslim sort of policies as it relates to not just immigration but also just broadly. There's some fucked up shit. They I think, can't remember if it was actually passed. I think it might have been, but like they were banning hijabs from being worn in public and things like that, which are, you know, clearly a suppression of one particular religion. This is only one of her many worse policies, but it's the one that comes to mind first. We don't have to listen to this whole interview. It goes on for a while, and she just kind of makes excuses for a whole bunch of shit. But let's look at this from CBC News from 14 hours ago. According to polls they are looking at, ahead of the French runoff vote that's going to be happening this weekend, very shortly, actually. I think it starts Sunday morning. The polls are currently suggesting that the far-right national rally will fall short of an absolute majority, which would have allowed them to push through just wild legislation without any real pushback.
It's still on election watch. The second round runoff vote in France's parliamentary election this Sunday may lead to a hung parliament. Recent polling suggests Marine Le Pen's far-right National Rally Party will fall short of an absolute majority. But there's still a lot of uncertainty, with some politicians urging caution. Ross Cullen is standing by in Paris with the latest this morning. Good morning, Ross. There's still a lot of unknowns at this point, even though there were a lot of predictions that this far-right national rally would actually form government. What are the latest polls saying?
Well, Chris, there are certainly parallels to make on this side of the English Channel. Rishi Sunak gambled on that early election in the UK, and that backfired on him, losing hundreds of MPs. Emmanuel Macron gambled on a snap election here in France, and that backfired on him, also set to lose hundreds of MPs. In terms of the last polls before the weekend, we do see the National Rally in first place, but likely falling short of a majority. They're set to get around 220 to 240 MPs in the French National Assembly. You need 289 to get a majority. In second place would...
Man. You know, neoliberals like Emmanuel Macron are kind of failing the left that they espouse to be, you know, sort of the bastions of, right? Like the protector of it. But the fact is, you know, it's not just in France. This sort of neoliberal policy is failing all over the place, right? Aside from in the UK election, as we just saw with Labour, but like we've seen it not just in France, but in multiple countries like across Europe. This is one of them right here. Yeah, let's go to this. Euro News from 3 days ago. Rule of law concerns spark protests during Dutch government swearing in.
Protesters demonstrated out of concern for the rule of law as the new Dutch government was sworn in. Activists from Amnesty International gathered from behind the fences of the Royal Palace out of concern for the rule of law, which they say is now in danger as the Netherlands' new government was sworn in. The group had awaited new Dutch Prime Minister Dick Schoof along with incoming ministers and state secretaries at the back entrance of the palace. However, the politicians instead arrived at the front, so the group missed them.
Yeah, this is one of those examples here in Netherlands. God damn it, what's his name? Is it Van der Leen? Oh, Dick Schoof. Dick Schoof is the, I think, was he just elected? Yeah, I think he was the one that was just elected. Yeah. Okay. At least he's the new PM. Yeah. Okay. All right, let's go. Let's go to this disturbing story. This is in Africa here, where rights groups are saying that Kenyan protesters have been abducted in the recent protests that we've been looking at. Whoops, I just clicked the wrong thing. Go back. Go back, please. There we go.
This secluded forest is a temporary refuge for Kenyan activist Bill Eugene Omolo after what he describes as a traumatic ordeal. Last month, he says, he was abducted by unknown men after taking part in anti-government protests.
I was told to sit down, yeah, forcefully, yeah. Once I sat down, it was a cold floor, yeah. They asked me to remove my pants, my tracksuit. So I removed my tracksuit. They even took my shoes off from me. They took my shirt off from me.
Human rights groups say dozens of Kenyans have been targeted in similar abductions in the past 2 weeks. They blame the extrajudicial arrests on Kenya's intelligence services. A police spokesperson did not respond to requests for comment on the abductions, nor did Nordin Haji, the director of Kenya's intelligence services. In an interview on Sunday, President William Ruto denied police involvement in disappearances and broadly defended the actions of the security forces. However, Irungu Horton, executive director at Amnesty International Kenya, said what they've seen is a number of very disturbing patterns.
It also has now begun to develop this, I guess, this pattern that we had not seen probably at this scale since the 1980s, where people who are considered to be protesters or organizers or even just simply voices of dissent are being plucked from their homes or even as they go to church with their family.
The protest.
Yeah, this is unacceptable. We have 40 likes now. That is incredible. Okay. Is that 3? Oh god, my stream software is lagging. In the back half. Always gotta do it in the back half, don't you? Okay. Alright, on to less disturbing news than that. Let's go to Iran and discuss the election that is happening there.
The Iranian government's holding a runoff presidential election today. It is pitting the former nuclear negotiator and hardliner Saeed Jalili against the reformist politician and lawmaker Masoud Pezeshkian. Now, this race is about the presidency, obviously, but perhaps more importantly for the Iranian theocracy, it's about turnout. Last week's first round of voting saw no candidate get the over 50% required to take the election in the first round. It also saw the lowest turnout in the history of Iran since the 1979 Islamic Revolution. Now, officials in the time since have tried to downplay that, but the government for decades has pointed to voter participation as a sign of the wider population's support for the Shia theocracy. So today, officials up to Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei have said that we have seen higher turnout, but there have been online videos of largely deserted polling centers, as well as a survey of centers in Tehran. Several dozen of them saw pretty light traffic. That is contrasted against what the officials are saying and what's been aired on state television, which has shown.
I think in 2024 they'd have video showing this incredibly high turnout. U.S. reporting is always kind of racist. I think maybe to some degree. He might be right. GNN Nature Edition. What does that mean? We talk about nature every day. Every goddamn day here. Okay, let's talk a couple of things here in Asia, where Viktor Orban, Hungary's prime minister, or is it president? Whatever. He went and visited Moscow, seeking Putin's perspective on the war in Ukraine.
Azt kell megállapítanom, elnök úr, hogy lassan
Mr.
elfogynak azok az
President, I must
országok,
conclude
amelyek
the number of countries that can talk to both sides
háborúban álló félel
of
tudnak
this war is
beszélni.
diminishing. Hungary is slowly becoming the only country in Europe that can speak to Android. I would like to use the situation to speak with you about important issues, and I would like to get to know your perspective on some issues that are important to Europe. Yeah, I don't think that the NATO leaders are going to be super stoked about Viktor Orban going to hang out with Vladimir Putin out of the blue. But, hey, what do I know? Who is your fourth support character? It is Captain Planet, but unfortunately the stream is lagging, and I can't actually bring Captain Planet out for you. Even with our powers combined right now, it's not enough. Oh, I'm sorry. I am so sorry. Alright, now let's talk China. As we've been discussing the different tariffs which Western nations have been putting on Chinese EVs, among other sorts of Chinese exports. This is from Reuters, where China is hinting at its own targets in the EV tariff battle. Whoopsies, capitalism happened.
China has dropped some hints about how it could retaliate against EU tariffs on its electric vehicle exports. The Commerce Ministry said Friday it would hold a hearing to examine claims European brandy producers are selling into the country at below market rates. Officials have also referred to another probe into EU pork exports. Analysts say the targets were chosen to pressure Spain and France, which have been among the strongest backers of the new levies. Europe this week imposed import tariffs of up to 37.6% on China-made EVs. That will hit local brands like BYD, but also Chinese-made cars from Western firms including Tesla. The tariffs are provisional, while Brussels conducts a probe into Beijing's support for its car makers. China has said both sides should stay at the negotiating table for now.
Okay. So yeah. Probably a predictable outcome of the tariffs that have been getting put on China. At some point, China would say, hey, you know, this is kind of annoying us, and I think we might look at some European and or American products here. A little harder than we normally do. Alright, let's look at, I guess what you would call good news. I'm not used to good news, but this is like, you know, a tiny little diamond in the rough here. Associated Press from a day ago. 14 looted statues returned to Cambodia from the Metropolitan Museum of Art.
To bring back our heritage home, like bring back the soul of our ancestors. And the soul of our ancestors come with the history, with the admiration, with the knowledge, and with also the development of the country. It's very important for the young generation of Cambodia, so that you will see that the meaning is for every Cambodian people. We're so happy, we're so very, very happy. I think that difficult to say in human language.
Nice to see. I think we saw a story similar to this recently, but it was more frustrating. I think it was the British Museum. And I think they loaned back, who was it? They loaned back some country stuff that they stole like 150 years ago. Loaned. Like, here's your shit on loan that we definitely took from you. Here's a sign saying why and how we took it from you and why it was important to you. Can't forget that. Was it Benin? Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right. That sounds right. I wanted to say Ghana, but I knew that was wrong. Yeah. Okay. Now let's do a little U-turn. Go back here, talk about Israel. Yeah, that's right. We made it to that time of the day. Although I'd leave it till the end because it's, I feel like it's definitely among our most depressing subjects that we talk about. So, you have the whole stream to kind of get through to this point. All right, let's start here. Let's talk about Hezbollah. Now, if you're unaware, Israel assassinated the top military commander in Hezbollah a couple days ago. Hezbollah returned fire with hundreds of rockets across the Israel-Lebanon border. Start with that.
Hezbollah militants have fired over 200 rockets into northern Israel. This is one of the heaviest barrages in nearly 9 months of fighting, and comes a day after Israel killed a senior Hezbollah commander in Lebanon. Israel says that one soldier was killed in this latest barrage. Hezbollah began attacking Israel almost immediately after Israel's war with Hamas erupted last October 7th. Hezbollah says the fighting will not end until there's a ceasefire in Gaza. Now, ceasefire talks have repeatedly faltered in recent months, but there are some new signs for optimism.
Okay. There are. I'm going to talk about them. But before we do that, let's go to this. This is some of the effects of these Hezbollah-Israel sort of back and forth here. This is more footage of the fires, which we looked at yesterday, that are on both sides of the Israel-Lebanon border, which are probably going to cause lasting damage, especially the Lebanese olive oil and fruit tree businesses. I did not translate that for you. I am sorry. If I recall correctly, what he said was that they are standing there attempting to create a what's it called? A barrier. I think they're trying to cut down as much like shrubbery and foliage in like a line there to attempt to combat the fire that way. Why are we talking about anchovies v sardines in chat? When did we get onto that? And how? When and how? Also, why? Where is already answered. It's in chat. But I have so many more questions.
Thanks, Jeff, for the question.
Okay. And we're going to talk about something else that we've been talking about quite a lot in the last few days. I think we've talked about it every single day ever since I heard about it. This is a news story regarding this situation. If you're unaware, who was it? Bezalel Smotrich recently made the claim that Israel's parliament had approved 1 million settlers to go into the West Bank, create 5 new settlements. We heard no denial from the government, and now this. This is from Al Jazeera English. Watchdog says Israel has been seizing West Bank land. Oh, wait, hold on. I forgot. Wait, what? Why are wait, hold on. What's happening? Oh, there it is. Yeah. Huh? Oh. Go web go.
Israel is expected to go ahead with a massive land seizure in the occupied West Bank. This will bring the total amount of land taken by the state to a record 12.6 7 square kilometres this year and would make it the largest land grab in over 3 decades. That's according to settlement tracking organisation Peace Now. Let's bring in our correspondent Nida Ibrahim. She's joining us live from Ramallah in the occupied West Bank. Extremely concerning reports from Peace Now. Nida, tell us what they're saying.
Well, they're saying that there is a meeting that's being carried out now, and it's expected to continue until tomorrow by the planning committee in the illegal settlement of Beit El to regulate and approve the building of more than 6,000 settlement units here in the occupied West Bank. If that announcement is made public, which we are expecting it either tonight or tomorrow, then we are talking about 9,000 settlement units being approved just since this year started. And we were already talking about the year 2023 being the highest on record when it comes to the approval of new units, which amounted last year to 12,000 units here in the occupied West Bank. Let's remind our viewers that when we talk about the occupied West Bank, we are talking about 60% of it where Palestinians are not allowed to build without getting an almost impossible Israeli permit to build. This is why we see them using these lands for grazing, using them for farming. But in the past few years, we've been seeing how the Israeli forces are moving with plans to confiscate lands, to give them to the expansion of the illegal Israeli settlements at the expense of the indigenous people.
Nida, thank you.
So yeah, and in fact what they're doing is filling in gaps, right, between other settlements, essentially creating blocks of completely Israeli-controlled land. This is all completely illegal, even if the Israeli parliament is allowing it, because West Bank isn't Israel, or at least it's not supposed to be. However, they continue to ignore that fact. All right. Let's look at this story from PBS NewsHour. Israel launches assault on Khan Yunis after previously claiming it destroyed Hamas there. Oh, wait. I forgot. We have to look at this. This is also from the West Bank, the city of Jenin, where 5 Palestinians were killed in a recent Israeli operation from the last 24 hours. Fucking hell. Oh, this shit is fucked. That looks like a missile to me. At least a tank round. Multiple tank rounds if it's a tank. In the West Bank. Not Gaza. The place where Hamas is. Oh my god. How is this still happening? And just getting seemingly worse by the day. With as much information that's out there, how are world leaders continuing to look at this and say, totally fine. Let's move on to something else. Okay, let's go to this one, the one I was just talking about, but we had to go looking at now. Let's go to PBS NewsHour.
Israel launched airstrikes into Khan Yunis overnight, a part of Gaza it already assaulted and left a few weeks ago. A ground operation now seems likely. It's not the first time in this now 9-month war that Israeli forces have claimed to clear Hamas from an area only to return weeks or months later.
It's almost like you can't actually obliterate Hamas to nothing, right? Or Shyamalan twist, there is no Hamas there, and they're just continuing their assault on Palestinians in general, Hamas or no.
In the streets of Khan Yunis today, pain and prayers for the dead.
Either way, it flies completely in the face of all of their claims, right? And at this point, nobody should be believing their plans for what's going to happen with Hamas or accepting what it is they want in regards to that. Even though they keep trying to make that a sticking point in the ceasefire talks, which have been stalled for the last 2+ weeks at least, if not longer. Jesus Christ, I think it must be at least 3 weeks, right? Because we had the debate. God, it's been a while since that thing was fucking released. Alright, let's look at this story. This is, shockingly, from the Associated Press. This is them showing what it's actually like to live in Gaza as a displaced Palestinian. And spoiler alert, it's not good. And honestly, I feel like this is sort of watered down, but still showing much more than I expect from Associated Press most days.
وما في مكان آمن، الأمان عند الله.
There is no safe place.
يعني الحمد
Safety
لله
is
وين ما
with
نروح وين ما
God.
نيجي القصف الخبط الاجتياحات
Everywhere we go,
الخبز
there are
حتى مش
bombings
كمان في
and
صغارنا الخبز صار فينا
fear
الوضع
has become
صعب
not only
الوضع
among
صعب
children,
كثير
but as well
وسيء
as adults.
يعني صرنا نمشي في
The situation
الشارع
is difficult,
نمشي في
very
الشارع
bad.
فيش
We now
فينا
walk in
أمان
the
ولا
street.
نمشي في الشارع صار الوضع
We do not
صعب
feel safe to walk in
الوضع
it.
صعب علينا الأكل فيش أكل
There is
فيش
no food,
شرب
no drink,
فيش في أكل ولا
and
حاجة
what is to eat?
حياة يعني صعبة
Nothing.
ولا
It's
أكل
hard
ولا
life.
شرب
No food, no
ولا
drink, no
ولا
nothing.
حاجة معاناة حياة صعبة
ممكن تلاقي عائلة بس أوقات لأنه فيش في غرف.
معاناة يعني شديدة وغير.
This poor fucking kid right here.
ممكن تلاقي عائلة.
Like this photo. Like this, whoa, with this kid just standing here, just sort of staring off. It's just so frustrating. All these kids going without food and water, having no future, having no ability to really even assess the future, because they are just constantly being shepherded, or not shepherded, that's too nice of a word, being forced to move from place to place without any infrastructure, no school, no nothing. Okay, final story of the day, penultimate video. Great job for making it this far, Space Fams. You are truly a just incredibly strong individual. If you're listening to this and you've made it this far, just wow. Alright, let's talk the ceasefire, which I've been hinting at this whole time. CBS News, 14 hours ago. Israel is now saying that it is restarting the stalled ceasefire talks. It's from 14 hours ago.
Hope is rising again for a ceasefire and hostage releases in the war in Gaza after a phone conversation yesterday between President Biden and Israel's Prime Minister. Holly Williams is in Tel Aviv with the latest on peace talks that have been on hold for weeks. Holly, good morning.
Good morning, Michelle. Well, Prime Minister Netanyahu told President Biden that he's decided to send a delegation to restart stalled negotiations. Now, the U.S. is pushing for a ceasefire and the release of the remaining hostages still held captive in Gaza, believed to number around 120. This comes after Hamas responded on Wednesday to a proposed three-stage ceasefire deal made public by President Biden in May. Under that framework, female, elderly and wounded hostages would be released first, while Israeli troops would pull out of populated areas in Gaza. The second phase would see the release of the remaining living hostages, and Israeli forces would withdraw from the Gaza Strip. A senior U.S. official said the Hamas response, quote, may provide the basis for closing the deal. And
Okay, so Israel is planning to go back to the negotiating table, according to Netanyahu, by way of by way of Joe Biden, apparently. So this is definitely a good sign. I don't want to get too excited. I don't know how many times we've talked about a potential ceasefire. It's been too many times for it not to have happened at this point, but I'm going to continue to have just a tiny bit of optimism around this. We've heard this story before. Yes, I know we have, which is why I am taking this, and as you should as well, with a grain of salt. Let's have Al Jazeera break this down a bit more for us.
Says there's been a breakthrough in the negotiations between Hamas and Israel for a ceasefire deal and the release of Israeli captives. Our correspondent, Mohammed Jamjoon, joins me now in the studio. Thank you so much, Mohammed, for joining me. Let's begin with the basics of what we know. This is, of course, a breaking news situation, but what we've heard from a senior official in the U.S. that there's been a breakthrough on critical matters in the Israel-Hamas talks. How significant is this?
So, Jessica, this seems on its face to be rather significant, the fact that there is all of a sudden this burst of what appears to be momentum, when so many times in the past we've heard that things might be close, but the tones have been much more measured when it came to the sort of level of cautious optimism. Right now, we seem to be hearing from the U.S. that they do believe that they could be on the precipice of a major breakthrough, but we have to warn, we have been close to this point before, many times in the last several months, where it seemed as though perhaps both sides had bridged one of the main sticking points. Now, right now, what we know is happening is that there is going to be an Israeli delegation coming to Qatar to be discussing the proposal that they've gotten from Hamas with the mediators. Also, we're told that the U.S. is going to be sending a delegation as well to Qatar to be involved in these negotiations. That all is very encouraging, and what seems to have spurred all this is the fact that Hamas gave a new proposal in the past 24 hours to the Israelis that has been studied. What we're seeing across the Israeli media landscape is it seems that there are a lot of Israeli officials that believe that Hamas is being more flexible than they had been in the past. And so right now, people are encouraged. But again, we're not at the point yet where we can say that there is any big major breakthrough as of yet.
And if we talk about what is being said from the Israeli negotiating team, according to sources that have spoken with media, the proposal put forward by Hamas includes a very significant breakthrough. That's according to that source. What might that breakthrough be?
Well, this is going to be key to find out what exactly it is, because the reports in Israel are indicating, or suggesting rather, that perhaps Hamas has softened their stance. Perhaps they have made the language in their proposal more amenable to the Israeli side. That's going to be interesting to see what exactly is in the proposal, what we will hear from Hamas going forward. Because in the past, the main sticking point has been the language about if there's going to be a permanent ceasefire.
Exactly, yeah. That has been the main sticking point, because Israel continues to say that it wants to just, get its hostages back and go right back to what they were doing. And for Hamas, that's unacceptable. And I think that should be an unacceptable plan for everyone. We need a permanent ceasefire months ago. We're already way past when this should have all come to an end, and yet we're still here dealing with it right now. Hopefully, there will be actual progress made, some kind of agreement accepted from these latest talks in Qatar. Fingers crossed, knock on wood. I know it's hard to stay optimistic about these because we've heard too many times them just go south right after this exact same sort of language is used. Oh, we're sending a delegation to work out the deal, and then nothing. All right. Well, we've made it through another one, chat. I hope we've all learned something today. That's it for me. Till I see you next time. You stay classy, Galactic Stream Nation. Can't forget this. These are your galactic patrons. Gabby, Goth Dogs, Aaron W, Biddy, PB, Robot Cat, Morbius Dragon, The Anti-Corporatist, Moa Noip, Nadia, Mrs. Jen, Omega Star, Pitchfork Dragon, Vincent Morales, and Donald James X. That's right. All these individuals you see here, and more, have helped to produce the show which you have just enjoyed with your eyes and ears. You can do the same, while also accessing super sweet galactic space benefits, unseen by the rest of the Milky Way, for just a few US dollars a month. Just click that link in chat. You can help make sure that the Galactic News Network continues to broadcast from low Earth orbit. Write that down.
Do you know weird word? Deep Earth. Oh my gosh.
Well, it's that time.
speaker is Mr. Kenneth Clark.